When the sky dimmed and the mountains fell silent, every student of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy understood one thing. This was not merely the final battle of the hunt. It was the moment where a year of blood, sweat, and bitter training would either be rewarded or erased without a trace. Above the vast spiritual light mountain, three figures sat like immovable pillars of heaven, their presence alone pressing upon the hearts of tens of thousands. And facing them, three challengers stepped forward, bearing not only their own pride, but the hopes of an entire generation. Victory would grant glory beyond measure. Defeat would leave nothing behind. And among those challengers stood a single freshman, carrying a burden far heavier than his cultivation realm should ever allow. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. The astonishing battle that had raged through the skies finally reached its conclusion. Below, the vast spiritual light platform had already collapsed into ruin, no longer retaining its former grandeur. Two enormous craters swallowed nearly half of its surface, while countless spiderweb-like cracks spread outward from them, rendering the entire platform chilling and desolate to behold. A sea of people still blanketed the surrounding mountains and plains. Yet at this moment the crowd remained eerily silent, as if everyone was still immersed in the aftershocks of that awe-inspiring confrontation in the heavens. Countless gazes converged upon the figure of the youth suspended in mid-air. Within many of those eyes flickered unmistakable respect. If Mu Chen had once been regarded as nothing more than a freshman, then this battle had Che Di transformed him into a true powerhouse of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. On the heavenly rankings, he was now fully qualified to stand among the top three. Such an achievement left countless people sighing in amazement. One had to remember Mu Chen had entered the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy less than half a year ago. Yet within this short span of time, his growth had been so rapid that it left people stunned. Such innate talent, such monstrous potential. Botching one, uncontainable joy burst across Su Linger's lovely face as she tightly grabbed Su Xuan's smooth wrist, crying out in excitement. Beside her, Li Qing and Guo Xiong let out helpless laughs, their gazes fixed upon the youth in the sky, complicated emotions swirling within their eyes. They could not help but think, ever since we returned 2 months ago, this fellow's strength has already reached such a terrifying level. Su Xuan also revealed a gentle smile as her beautiful eyes, tinged with a trace of peculiarity, rested on Mu Chen. Even she had never expected that Mu Chen would truly defeat He Yao. After all, regardless of Mu Chen's talent, He Yao was still a veteran powerhouse standing at the apex of the academy. Looks like my third position on the heavenly rankings will have to be handed over, Su Xuan murmured softly, a light laugh accompanying her words. There was no reluctance in her heart. She had never cared much for rankings in the first place. If not for He Yao's excessive bullying, she might not have even bothered to compete. In the distance, Wang Tong and the others finally let out long breaths of relief. As they stared at the figure in the sky, they smacked their lips in astonishment. At this moment, the gazes they directed toward Mu Chen had subtly changed. When they first learned that Mu Chen and Luo Li had slain a spirit king, they had indeed felt shock and admiration. Yet the impact of that achievement paled in comparison to what they felt now. After all, He Yao was one of the most influential figures, standing at the very peak of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Within the academy, only Shen Kangsheng and Li Xuantong were capable of suppressing him, and now a third person had appeared. Moreover, this third person was a freshman. The shock this revelation brought far surpassed that of Mu Chen slaying a spirit king, even though He Yao's strength was not necessarily greater than that of the spirit king. Since Mu Chen has defeated He Yao, the third position should naturally belong to him. And Ran suddenly spoke. Upon hearing these words, Wang Tong and the others grew solemn. Their gazes instinctively turned toward the majestic mountain peak, shrouded in clouds. Atop that peak stood the final barrier of this hunt, the three great generals of the punishment hall. They were terrifying existences that even Shen Kangsheng, the overlord of the heavenly rankings, treated with utmost caution. If the students failed to overcome the trial set by the three great generals, then all the blood, sweat, and effort they had poured into the hunting grounds would amount to nothing. At this moment, Luo Li's clear eyes contracted slightly. She understood all too well those three individuals stood at the absolute summit of the student body. They represented supreme glory, yet at the same time they embodied overwhelming pressure. The hunt was the most anticipated event of the year for all students. They endured loneliness, bitter training, and countless hardships, all for the sake of shining during this hunt and obtaining spiritual light empowerment, the treasure that made countless hearts burn with desire. Yet now the three great generals stood before them like an insurmountable mountain. They could not cross it themselves. They could only place their hopes upon Shen Kangsheng Li Xuantong and Mu Chen, the newly appointed third. With hope came pressure. The anticipation of countless students seemed to coalesce into an invisible force, pressing heavily upon the shoulders of those three. If they emerged victorious, they would gain prestige that reached the pinnacle of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, along with genuine respect and gratitude from every student. This was the glory reserved for victors. But if they lost, hope would turn to disappointment, and the consequences of that disappointment were unimaginable. Luo Li gently clenched her jade-like hands as she stared at Mu Chen's figure, gravity flickering within her eyes. The third position was not an honor easily borne. As her gaze wavered, Shen Changsheng and Li Xuantong descended from the sky, coming to a halt beside Mu Chen. They both cast peculiar looks at him, carefully sizing him up before Shen Changsheng spoke with a faint smile. "Congratulations on defeating He Yao. However, we must also inform you that the third position now rests upon your shoulders. I believe you understand what this represents. This is not merely a glorious achievement." Mu Chen paused slightly before nodding gently. He naturally understood the immense pressure that came with this position. If he were to lose, the disappointment he would bring to the students would be devastating enough to render everyone's efforts meaningless. Luo Li flashed upward from the ground and appeared beside Mu Chen. She silently cast her beautiful gaze at Shen Changsheng and Li Xuantong. Li Xuantong glanced at Luo Li with a complicated expression, then turned back to Mu Chen. "I think you still don't fully grasp the situation you're in," he said calmly. "Shen Kangsheng and I have already investigated the three great generals. The two of us can hold back two of them, ending in draws." Mu Chen's pupils shrank. "A draw." "That's right," Shen Changsheng continued. "According to the rules, the students have a slight advantage. If we achieve 3 draws, it counts as our victory. Li Xuantong and I can guarantee 2 draws. That means," he smiled helplessly, "the deciding battle rests on the third fight." A heavy shadow crept across Mu Chen's pale yet handsome face. Luo Li's brows knitted faintly. "If you can force a draw, we win," Li Xuantong said indifferently. "If you lose, we all lose. The hunt ends here, and everyone returns empty-handed." Mu Chen's expression subtly changed. In other words, the pressure that should have been shared by 3 people had now been placed entirely upon his shoulders. If he failed, he would bear the weight of everyone's shattered hopes. No one might openly criticize him, but that unspoken disappointment could easily crush one's heart. This outcome was even crueler than losing to He Yao. Losing to He Yao would have been a personal defeat. Losing here would mean betraying everyone's expectations. The responsibility was unbearably heavy. Shen Changsheng and Li Xuantong silently watched the quiet Mu Chen. The air grew thick, suffocating, as the atmosphere spread across the heavens and earth. On the ground, countless students stared upward. Though they could not hear the conversation clearly, they understood enough to feel their hearts tighten. Hope and anxiety intertwined within their gazes as they looked at the figures in the sky, those who carried their dreams. Even Su Linga, Su Xuan, and the others grew solemn. This burden was far too heavy to place upon the shoulders of a mere freshman. Li Xuantong finally spoke again. "If you feel you cannot bear this responsibility, you may give up. No one is qualified to blame you. After all, you're still a freshman." Shen Changsheng chuckled. The wind tousled his hair as he patted Mu Chen's shoulder. There's no need to push yourself. What Li Xuantong said is reasonable. I almost forgot you're just a freshman. If you lack confidence, giving up is the best choice. Worst case, I'll go all out against senior Lin Zheng. As if I'd fear him. Amid the suffocating silence, Luo Li reached out and gently held Mu Chen's hand. Seeing the faint crease on his brow, she smiled softly. Even if everyone is disappointed, you will always be the most dazzling in my eyes. Mu Chen looked at her porcelain-like face, then slowly closed his eyes. His grip tightened around her hand. Then, he opened his eyes. The hesitation vanished, completely replaced by sharpness and brilliance. He lifted his head and gazed toward the cloud-shrouded mountain peak. A gentle smile appeared on his face as he spoke calmly. I know this will place immense pressure upon me, but giving up is not my way. If I lack even the courage to bear this weight, how can I ever walk the path of becoming an unrivaled expert? He turned to the silver-haired girl dressed in black. He had promised her to become unrivaled, to stand before her and shatter all the pressure bearing down upon her. If he could not endure this moment, how could he continue onward? Sensing the rapidly rising aura of the youth before them, Shen Kangsheng and Li Xuantong were briefly stunned. Then they smiled. Mu Chen is indeed far more reliable than He Yao. Mu Chen smiled as his gaze locked onto the cloud-covered peak, faintly discerning three figures resembling demon gods. Their pressure descended like Mount Tai, but his smile only grew brighter. These two seniors, he said firmly, leave the third position to me. Win or lose. His black eyes shone brilliantly as he declared with fervor, I will give it my all. The sky gradually dimmed, yet the majestic spiritual light mountain grew unusually lively. By this time, almost all of the students who had participated in the hunt had already rushed toward the site of the final battle. Everyone understood that this was the most crucial moment of the entire hunt. No one continued collecting spiritual lights. Ensuring the smooth passage through the final checkpoint had become the highest priority. Only by defeating the three final protectors could they obtain the long-awaited benefits of spiritual light empowerment. According to the rules, there was only a single opportunity to challenge the three great protectors. If they failed, every participant in this year's hunt would return empty-handed. Their year of bitter effort reduced to nothing. A battle of such a level was far beyond what ordinary students could participate in. Thus, they could only entrust all their hopes to the three strongest individuals they knew. Though they were well aware that this would place unimaginable pressure upon them, this was, after all, the only choice they had. On a small peak of the spiritual light mountain, Mu Chen sat cross-legged at the edge of a cliff, gazing at the seemingly endless sea of people below. He could clearly see the thick apprehension and anticipation filling their eyes. The protectors this time were simply too powerful. Even if Shen Kangsheng and Li Xuantong joined forces, they knew their chances of victory were still slim. Rustle. Soft footsteps sounded behind him. Luo Li appeared at his side and sat down beside him. A faint smile curved her lips as she asked gently, "Are you nervous?" Hearing her question, Mu Chen gave a helpless shrug. If it concerned only himself, his state of mind would not fluctuate in the slightest. But the hundreds, no thousands of people below had placed all their hopes upon his shoulders. To say that he was not nervous would be nothing but a lie. He turned his head slightly and gazed at the incomparably beautiful face of the young girl beside him, a deep sense of tenderness rising in his eyes. He merely bore the hopes of the students here. But what about Luo Li? She would one day become the queen of the Luo Shen clan, carrying the expectations of millions of people. She would be their ruler, their shield, their protector. If he failed, the worst outcome would be that everyone here lost a year of hard training. But if she failed, the Luo Shen clan would face merciless slaughter. Mountains of corpses, seas of blood, this was the cruel and immutable truth. Compared to the burden Luo Li carried, his own was truly insignificant. "Does it hurt?" Mu Chen asked softly as he raised his hand and gently caressed her cheek. Luo Li leaned into his embrace, her delicate face resting against his chest. A serene smile appeared on her exquisitely beautiful face as she lightly shook her head. as fragile and gentle as a cicada's wings. Mu Chen tightened his arms around her. He knew Luo Li possessed a character both resilient and unyielding. Even under pressure that would crush ordinary people into despair, she would silently shoulder it alone. And that more than anything made his heart ache. "Relax, I won't lose." Burying his face in her faintly fragrant hair, he murmured softly. On another mountain peak, Shen Changsheng and Li Xuantong watched the distant scene of the young man and woman leaning against each other. The expressions on their faces were somewhat complicated. "I really don't understand why the Academy raised the difficulty of the final Guardians to such a level this year," Shen Kangsheng said, pursing his lips. "If it were like previous years, I could have handled it alone. But this time, the difficulty has increased several-fold. The appearance of the three great generals was unprecedented in recent years of the hunt. Only under pressure does improvement occur," Li Xuantong replied casually. "They can't let you dominate every year, can they? When I finish the spiritual light empowerment this time, it'll be time to settle things with that fellow Mo Longzi," Shen Changsheng said with a laugh. Yet as he mentioned the name, a sharp, cold light flashed unmistakably in his eyes. "Is he that strong?" Li Xuantong asked, frowning slightly. He had never crossed hands with Mo Longzi, but anyone who could force Shen Kangsheng to retreat empty-handed was clearly not an easy opponent. Yes, Shen Kangsheng nodded. After all, he's the genius nurtured wholeheartedly by the demonic Dragon Palace, and even then he's not the strongest of their younger generation. Mo Xingtian is even more terrifying. In a true duel, even I might not be his match. Mo Xingtian, Li Xuantong repeated softly, his pupils contracting. That name alone represented immense pressure to any student of the Northern Heavens Spiritual Academy. The number one figure on the bounty list. "After this hunt, if you're free, team up with me and leave the academy," Shen Kangsheng said with a smile. "We'll see if we can deal with Mo Longzi and perhaps even Mo Xingtian." Li Xuantong felt a surge of emotion, but quickly lifted his head and looked toward the majestic peak ahead. "First, we must deal with what's in front of us. If we lose this spiritual light empowerment, any plans of vengeance will have to wait." Shen Kangsheng nodded, then shifted his gaze toward the distant youth. Tomorrow's decisive battle would hinge entirely on Mu Chen. Night gradually gave way to dawn. Morning light pierced through the layers of clouds, illuminating the world once more. Beneath the spiritual light mountain, the atmosphere slowly grew fiery as countless burning gazes fixed themselves upon the mountain peak. Whoosh! Sharp, wind-splitting sounds rang out as the crowd's gazes locked onto the figures that appeared in the sky. Shen, Qiangsheng, Li Xuantong, Mu Chen, and Luo Li. Standing proudly in mid-air, Shen Kangsheng looked down upon the sea of people below and spoke slowly. "Everyone should be aware of the final rule of the hunt. This battle is extreme and concerns the interests of every one of us. However, I must clarify one thing. The three of us are not obligated to bear this responsibility. Therefore, regardless of the outcome, we will not shoulder blame. If the result is unsatisfactory, anyone who believes they can take on this role may step forward, and we will yield the position." The world fell deathly silent as everyone listened intently. Mu Chen sent an appreciative smile toward Shen Changsheng. He understood these words were meant to protect him should he fail. Though the outcome was yet unknown, Mu Chen felt sincere gratitude toward Shen Kangsheng's intentions. "Senior brother Shen, please rest assured." A roar suddenly erupted from the crowd. "If even the three of you are defeated, then we don't even have the qualifications to try. Criticism would be utter nonsense. I, Lu Hao, swear that even if we fail the final checkpoint, I will still respect the three of you wholeheartedly. Yes, please give it your all. Even if you lose, it can't be worse than this. Senior brothers Shen Changsheng, Li Xuantong, and junior brother Mu Chen, good luck." Clear, ringing voices of young women echoed out, followed by waves of agreement. Mu Chen looked at the surging sea of people and smiled faintly. Turning to Shen Changsheng and Li Xuantong, he said, "With this, it seems we can't afford to lose." "Just do your best," they replied with smiles. Raising his head toward the towering spiritual light mountain, Shen Changsheng spoke, Let's go. It's time to see exactly where the three great generals of the punishment hall are stationed. As he spoke, he shot forward, transforming into a streak of light that rushed toward the summit. Mu Chenli, Shentong, and Luoli followed closely behind. At the same time, the vast sea of students surged forth, blotting out the sky as they swept toward the peak like a swarm of locusts. The sight was truly magnificent. As everyone within the hunting grounds converged on the mountain peak, disturbances erupted in the northern public square of the Northern Heavens Spiritual Academy. At this moment, the atmosphere had reached its climax. Countless burning gazes fixed upon the sky where a massive light screen shimmered. Clouds drifted across its surface, but they gradually thinned as the towering mountain peak slowly emerged into view. Everyone understood the final battle of the hunt had arrived. Whether all would return empty-handed or reap glorious rewards would be decided by this single, heaven-shaking confrontation. Shen Kangsheng and Li Xuantong were obvious choices. But who would be the third? A veteran powerhouse or a dark horse that emerged from nowhere? All eyes were filled with anticipation. As the clouds receded completely, the scene within the light screen became clear. Three colossal peaks rose at the summit of the spiritual light mountain, like pillars propping up the heavens. Atop each peak, a solitary figure sat quietly at the cliff's edge. Their clothes fluttered in the mountain wind as an indescribable pressure silently spread across the world, so heavy that even students far beyond the academy felt it. So those are the three great generals of the punishment hall. What terrifying auras! They must all be at heavenly completion stage. Truly monstrous. This final checkpoint is simply too difficult. Even with senior brother Shen and the others breaking through, won't be easy. Missus. Countless faces changed as they stared at the statue-like figures, awe and anticipation intertwined in their eyes. Just then, hurried wind-splitting sounds echoed through the light screen. Countless figures poured through the lingering clouds, filling the sky and earth as they gathered around the mountain peak. They've arrived. Excitement rippled through the crowd. The sea of people parted as three figures slowly emerged. The first two were exactly as expected, Shen Kangsheng and Li Xuantong. All gazes then shifted toward the third slender figure. In that instant, the northern public square fell into stunned silence. Mouths slowly fell open. That is, Yi Qingling and the others stared in disbelief, their eyes wide. It's actually Mu Chen. At that moment, the entire northern public square was shaken to its core. At the summit of the spiritual light mountain, where lingering clouds endlessly drifted, three colossal peaks rose like divine pillars, propping up the heavens, piercing straight through the sea of clouds. At this moment, however, the air surrounding them was already packed with an immense number of figures. With a single glance, one could hardly discern the end of the crowd. All the students who had participated in the hunt had gathered here, awaiting the arrival of the final battle. Countless gazes were directed toward the summits of the three great peaks, where three figures sat quietly. The mountain winds fluttered their robes, yet their eyes remained calmly open, utterly unaffected by the convergence of innumerable students. Even their breathing was steady and tranquil, without the slightest disturbance. All the students stared at the three figures with deep respect filling their eyes. These three were the final guardians of this hunt. They were the former top three of the heavenly rankings, now the three great generals of the punishment hall. Around the mountain peaks, clouds drifted and swirled as the sea of people filled the sky. Yet strangely, there was not the slightest clamor or noise. Everyone could sense the faint but oppressive pressure radiating from the bodies of the three figures atop the peaks. It enveloped the world, pressing down upon their heads as if the sky itself had grown heavier. Amid the silence that blanketed heaven and earth, three figures slowly stepped forward, stopping in mid-air several thousand meters away from the three giant peaks. Whether at the spiritual light mountain or within the northern public square, all gazes converged upon these three figures. Within those eyes were anticipation, apprehension, doubt. Regardless of anything else at this moment, the three of them had undoubtedly become the absolute focus of everyone's attention. The instant they appeared, the three figures seated atop the giant peaks slowly opened their tightly shut eyes. Bang! The spiritual energy of heaven and earth seemed to erupt at that very moment, surging outward in a violent wave. Deep, thunderous rumbles echoed faintly across the world. Shen Kangsheng, you finally arrived. From the middle peak, a calm male voice rang out, carrying a faint smile. Yet the moment it sounded, countless hearts trembled, as an immense pressure descended upon them. Ha! I've kept senior brother Lin Zheng waiting for quite some time. Shen Changsheng came to a halt before the speaker, cupping his hands in greeting. His eyes contracted slightly, so subtly that it was almost imperceptible. So this is Lin Zheng of the three great generals. Mu Chen cast his gaze over and saw a man clad in black. His hair was entirely white, not pale, but shimmering with a silvery sheen, light flowing faintly through it, giving him an air of profound mystery. Mu Chen already possessed some information about the three great generals. Among them, Lin Zheng was acknowledged as the strongest, the former number one of the heavenly rankings. Mu Chen's expression gradually turned solemn. From Lin Zheng's body radiated a terrifying pressure, like an entire mountain range suspended overhead, suffocating anyone beneath it. Lin Zheng had undoubtedly stepped into the heavenly completion stage, and most likely not merely the initial phase. The heavenly completion stage was the final step before the sovereign stage. If sovereign experts could dominate regions of a continent, then heavenly completion experts were already regional tyrants. To reach such a level at this age was proof enough of Lin Zheng's monstrous talent. There's no point in speaking of waiting. Since this is the final battle, we naturally won't hold back. A voice sounded from the giant peak to Lin Zheng's right. Mu Chen turned his gaze and saw a man dressed in crimson robes. His scarlet hair burned like living flames, and the air around him faintly distorted, as if scorched by intense heat. "That's Gu Tianyan, your opponent," Li Xuantong whispered to Mu Chen. Mu Chen's pupils shrank as he stared gravely at the red-haired man. The spiritual energy around Gu Tianyan was violently unstable, like a blazing sea of fire. Though the pressure he exuded was not as overwhelming as Lin Zheng's, it carried a dangerous intensity that coursed through Mu Chen's body. None of the three great generals were easy opponents, this much was certain. Gu Tianyan should be at the heavenly completion initial stage. Li Xuantong continued softly. He cultivates the heavenly inflammation divine art. His spiritual energy is like heavenly flames, domineering, violent and destructive. Every move he makes is capable of incinerating cities and mountains. Mu Chen nodded slowly. A heavenly completion initial stage expert was vastly superior to someone like He Yao, who had merely stepped halfway into that realm. If He Yao were to face Gu Tianyan, he would undoubtedly be crushed within 5 exchanges. Moreover, Gu Tianyan's spiritual energy was distinctly unusual. Compared to my 9 nether flame-fused spiritual energy, which one is more overbearing? After observing Gu Tianyan for a moment, Mu Chen turned his gaze toward the leftmost peak. There sat another man, black-haired and handsome, a faint, gentle smile resting on his face. He remained silent, seemingly uninterested in drawing attention. Compared to Lin Zheng and Gu Tianyan, this man appeared far less conspicuous. Yet Mu Chen knew anyone who underestimated him would only have themselves to blame. "That's senior brother Zhou Qingshan, your opponent?" Mu Chen asked quietly. Li Xuantong nodded. It's said that during his time, senior brother Zhou Qingshan had a nickname within the academy, Undefeatable Mountain. Undefeatable Mountain? Mu Chen echoed in surprise. It means that when he fights, he almost never loses. Li Xuantong replied with a smile. Then why did senior brother Lin Zheng still hold the first rank? Mu Chen asked. I never said Zhou Qingshan won. Li Xuantong replied, his gaze fixed on the faintly smiling figure in the distance. Most of his battles ended in draws, partly due to personal reasons, but also because of his cultivation method. The divine art he practices is called the undefeatable divine art. It sounds overbearing, but it's actually extremely gentle. It focuses less on direct offense and more on neutralization, steadily exhausting an opponent's spiritual energy. That's why most people who fought him ended in a draw. Thus the nickname Undefeatable Mountain. Mu Chen was genuinely astonished. To be undefeated without necessarily winning was in its own way terrifying. Within the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy, Zhou Qingshan naturally wouldn't fight with lethal intent. But if he ever truly did, even that gentle divine art would reveal a terrifying edge. These three great generals, none of them are simple. As Mu Chen and Li Xuantong spoke quietly, Shen Changsheng cupped his hands toward Gu Tianyan and smiled. A victory gained through concession is something I cannot accept. How shall this battle proceed? Gu Tianyan raised his brows, smiling faintly. His flaming hair danced like living fire. You are worthy of your position as the current first of the heavenly rankings. Your courage is admirable. Even Gu Tianyan regarded Shen Changsheng with extreme caution. That strength alone was enough to make him sigh in amazement. The current generation of the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy was truly formidable. Lin Zheng raised his hand slightly and stood up. We've waited long enough. Shen Changsheng, you three may come forward. Only by passing us can the students obtain the spiritual light empowerment. Otherwise, he did not finish the sentence. No one needed him to. Shen Changsheng clenched his fist tightly, anticipation and tension blazing in his eyes. I invite senior brother Lin Zheng to bestow his guidance. He laughed loudly, his voice free and unrestrained. Golden light surged as a divine spear condensed in his palm. Its tip resembled a folded lotus radiant with boundless spiritual energy. With a single movement, Shen Changsheng appeared atop Lin Zheng's peak. He drove the golden spear into the ground, sending a shockwave sweeping outward, clearing the summit in an instant. He had chosen to face the strongest. This was exactly as everyone expected. Li Xuantong then patted Mu Chen's shoulder and vanished, reappearing on Zhou Qingshan's peak. Senior brother Zhou Qingshan, allow me to be your opponent this time. I have long wished to experience the undefeatable divine art. Zhou Qingshan smiled gently and nodded, his demeanor calm and warm. At that moment, all gazes in the world turned toward Mu Chen, who still stood in mid-air. Faint surprise flickered in the eyes of Lin Zheng, Zhou Qingshan, and Gu Tianyan. You're letting him take the third slot. Gu Tianyan frowned slightly. Your generation isn't weak enough to rely on a heavenly transformation initial stage cultivator, is it? This was not mockery, merely stating facts. Senior Gu Tianyan, Shen Changsheng, and Li Xuantong smiled simultaneously. He will show you something unexpected. Gu Tianyan raised his brows. Oh, then I look forward to it. Mu Chen took a deep breath. His expression grew solemn as he slowly floated toward Gu Tianyan's peak. Both the spiritual light mountain and the northern public square fell completely silent. Countless gazes fixed upon him. This battle was the most unbalanced of the three. Ignoring the weight of heaven and earth upon him, Mu Chen stared straight at Gu Tianyan. He cupped his hands, his voice deep and fearless as it rang across the sky. Senior brother Gu Freshman, Mu Chen of the Northern Heavens Spiritual Academy seeks your guidance. That's all for today's content. See you in the next part. Support me by becoming a member. It will give me more motivation. Thank you so much.